Martin, welcome back. In all honesty, what is your overriding feeling being sat in that seat beside Simon and myself here at talkSPORT, as opposed to sitting in the Celtic dugout?
Well, you know how much I enjoy Simon's company, so and I'm delighted to be back again. Yeah, it was just a whirlwind time. I left this very studio at about 1:10 or something like this here, and about 4:30 I get a call from Dermot Desmond, the major shareholder, saying that Brendan had resigned, and he said that he had searched around for a lot of people, and that I was 133rd in the list.
Available, yeah.
And he said, would you come up, because the 132nd person had just died. So
you were the only guy he contacted. You know that. I know that.
And yeah, and I'm obviously I was very, very worried about it, because really not having managed for some time. Secondly, if you fail, you are considered too old for the job, and that this is a young man's game. All those particular things that that obviously concerned me at the time. And I think I've said this in a number of occasions. My two daughters were all on for it, and my wife said, well, you'll mess it up anyway. And and thankfully I don't think I messed it up. She still reminds me that we lost to Michelin, and we'd won the other 7 games. But overall, it was a thing I genuinely probably couldn't turn down. A chance to get in, and a chance to feel, working with young people, working with young coaches that I actually had managed quite some years ago. Sean Maloney, Mark Fotheringham, and Steve McManus, and really, I thought the combination was fine in this aspect. Is that an older head going in there with a bit of experience. Experience doesn't really matter. Sometimes you can lose it all.
Yeah.
But and working with young people reinvigorated me.
Even after all the time that's passed since you were there first time around, and you enjoyed such huge success, did you feel in a funny way you still had something to prove being asked back?
Oh, I think you've always something to prove in the game, and I think that if I did have some sort of motivation, and it wasn't the foremost thought in my mind, but at some stage or another, I'm sure I thought about it. It was, all this bitterness that I had over the Nottingham Forest affair, and I think, do I want to leave this? Do I want to leave the game in this sort of state? So in essence, I got this opportunity to do it, and I wanted to try and put it right, if anything. So I feel much less bitter than I did before.
So after the Nottingham Forest experience, is this a bit of vindication?
Well, in my mind, whether it's vindication or whether people feel that or not, I'm not so sure. But me, I just feel less bitter, but not entirely corrected.
Did you get a little bit of validation?
Yes.
Yes.
Fair play, Martin.
Yes.
Did you leave the club last night, or whenever it was, when Nancy came in, and I'm going to get to that, with good grace? Was there any motivation from your side or the board side for you to carry on?
Right, okay. I stepped into the job. Dermot had said to me, he said, you could be in 2 weeks or 2 months. We're looking for someone, which I absolutely right. That's the board's decision to do that. And they'd be looking for somebody younger. So my job was, I've used the phrase, and I don't think it was actually used by Dermot, like holding the fort for a while. But when you get into it, you really enjoy it. You're enjoying it. Well, you enjoy winning. That's the point. This is what it's about. You enjoy winning the games. We got well and truly turned over against Michelin. We were physically blasted out of sight. So for us to come back and win in Feyenoord, and in the manner in which we did, was just like as if, well, that's great. I can put that is right now. So it gave us a chance to still qualify for the Europa League. And then to follow, not obviously beating Rangers in the second game was big, still is big. I know McCoist has just left the studio, but that's massive. So from that viewpoint, it was really terrific.
So were you motivated to stay on, Mark?
So motivated to stay on. If they had asked me to stay on, I would have done so. But the minute that they said, no, listen, that's your time, that is fine by me. That is exactly
what... Was that ever a conversation?
The conversation was when the new man became in place, whoever that was. I didn't know who it was when we was set out in the first place. I think they had a number of candidates, but whoever it was going to be, when everything was passed, when the paperwork was passed, when everything was done, and that man wanted to step in at a certain time, absolutely fine by me.
Did you not want to take Celtic, be honest with me, into yesterday's League Cup final?
Only if asked. And that wasn't really important. And I say that in all sincerity. That was not a driving force in the whole thing. You know, beating Rangers in the semi-final gave us a chance in the final. Listen, finals are still difficult, but at the end of it all, I didn't. If the board had said, "Listen, you know, we still have a problem with visas and things like this here," I'd happily have stayed on, whatever that game may be, my last game. But that was not a driving force from my viewpoint.
8 games, 7 wins, 1 defeat. What happened? Wilfred Nancy comes in. Did you go immediately, or did you stay for a day or some hours or a couple of days I think to help him bed in?
Right. I think, the board asked me would I stay on and speak to the incoming manager. So my last game was on a Wednesday night against Dundee. I would have been flying back to London anyway on the Thursday, but I stayed until later on, and I met the incoming manager. Very affable, very 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 nice. It's only a 10 or 15 minute conversation. What can you make of that of anybody at this time? It's like when I first met Simon, I thought not so sure, and it took me at least 5 meetings to decide I was right in the first place. But overall, I think that this is it. You know, so he's got his own philosophy, his own viewpoint in the game, and that is absolutely fine. But I was not going to be coming in and giving him advice on how to run.
But what did you say to him about Celtic? You must have said something.
No, very very little. He would have seen the matches.
Man, it wasn't a 15-minute conversation. Sure.
I promise you, it was no longer than that.
So what was the purpose of it, if it was that brief?
What did you want me to do? Did you want me to run through
Oh, why did Dermot Desmond want you to hang around to welcome Wilfred Nancy? Obviously, Dermot, I'm presuming, wanted Martin O'Neill, steeped in the football club, to pass a bit of that on to the incoming man. I would have passed on anything that the incoming manager would have wanted to have heard from me. That's it. It's as simple as that there. He didn't... he had his own view on players, and that's absolutely fine. But seriously, I would have given him the thing that I thought was important is that for him to bed in, for him to get put his own mark in the football club, very, very important with the January window coming up. They've lost a couple of players to the African Cup of Nations, and the squad needs supplementing. Martin came and went. 8 games, 7 wins, 1 defeat. It's been a disaster for Nancy. He lost the Scottish League Cup final yesterday to St Mirren at Hampden Park, and well done St Mirren. Only 1 winner there, and it certainly wasn't Celtic. 3-1 St Mirren won it. And what does that make it for Nancy? 3 losses in 3 for him. This was Nancy post-match.
Before the final that they deserve to have a good result, because I know that I came in and it was not easy for them in terms of change. They had to adapt regarding certain things, and the engagement that they have is really, they are really engaged. So there is no doubt with that. But now this is more about the what I ask individually. And so recognize when we have time on the ball to go to attack the box, recognize when instead of playing the long ball, can we play, recognize instead of playing back, can we play forward. This is more about the connection between 1, 2, 3 players.
Wilfred Nancy, after Celtic lost the League Cup final 3-1 to St Mirren. Simon, I'm going to get to the man sitting to your left in a second, but from the way I see it, because of the way Martin went about it and what he achieved in his spell up there, it was always going to be difficult for Nancy, difficult for anyone coming in.
Not really. Why would it be difficult? Difficult's coming into something that's broken. This wasn't.
Well, Martin was a big act to follow.
Sure, but Martin steadied the ship. He did. Dermot was very fortunate to have brought Martin in, and if he's made the right appointments, then he's very fortunate that Martin steadied the ship, got the motivation going in the right direction, won the games that needed to be won, put Celtic back into focus on the field rather than potentially off it. And if he's got the right manager, if they've appointed the right manager, then it should not be difficult. unless the manager that you're bringing in isn't thinking clearly about the task that he's inherited and the balance of the team that he's got to play with. I mean, you don't change things if it's not broken. You don't try and fix it, do you? And it wasn't broken. If you won 7 out of 8 games, Martin said, he talked about Forest playing the team that beat his side and how physically strong they were. So it wasn't a surprise that Celtic got turned over by them because they were a strong side. But look at the results that he got. I mean, the only regret I'd imagine that he would have had is if he had played St Mirren in the semi-finals of the Cup and Rangers were awaiting him in the final, he probably definitely would have wanted to stay. Mm-hmm. But everything was done for the fella to walk in the door and just go, right, okay, I'll implement my changes, perhaps subtly and over a period of time, and bring the playing squad with me. And perhaps he's gone too fast.
So Martin, what has Wilfried Nancy inherited from you?
Well, that's a good point. What has he inherited? He is well. First of all, I think that, and it's a digression for a moment or two. You've got to give managers chances. You've got to give them a chance. If I think back to my own time at Leicester City, where I eventually enjoyed really nice success but overall, when I went in there, first of all, and I don't even think but my head was right really, because I'd left Norwich after 6 months, used that old excuse about fighting with chairman and stuff like this here at the end of it all, and it was really all my own fault. And so I'm coming in not in the best frame of mind. I can't win a game to save my life, crowd begging for blood, and after 10 games. So you've got to have to, and I think to myself how lucky I was to win a couple of matches of real importance at a stage. So this is it. Coming into a situation now, you've just got to win. You've got to win. You've got to go and steady it again now. If it's gone afloat a bit or whatever the case may be, you just go in and win a game or two. And so there's some excellent players at the football club. There's some boys who have won big times as well. Captain's a terrific example of that. They're really, really good. It was brilliant for me and brilliant to me. And so just again, sometimes lean on some of the senior players. Lean on them, and get them on your side.
I mean, I accept it's maybe not. It's the most straightforward baptism for Nancy. Top of the table Hearts, Roma, who are decent at any time, and then a cup final against St Mirren.
Well, I could have lost all of those games as well too. So that's.
But your mantra to the Celtic players, I have heard, as soon as you went over the threshold, was we got to win. Am I right?
Yeah.
Be honest here, Martin. Is that what you pushed and pushed and pushed to them? You must win.
Well, if you're pushing that to players at Celtic, they've got to listen first time round, So it's prerequisite. You've got to win. You've got to win. Listen, if you're managing in the National League at this minute, you got to win. But it's so relevant up in Scotland. And Celtic and Rangers, that's it. You win first of all. I had a way back. I put together a really good team way back 20 odd years ago. Really good side. I inherited some really great players, and I brought some really good players to the football club. And you have to win. But that, they had to win.
Right, I'm looking at messages I'm getting in. I'm looking at my Twitter feed. He'll be back at Celtic in no time, Jim. Paul, never mind talkSPORT, Jim. With the graces of respect, getting back in the Celtic dugout. That's you they're talking about. Yeah. So here it comes. He's come in, played 3, lost 3. One of them's a cup final. Is it recoverable for Wilfried Nancy, Martin?
Absolutely. Of course it is. And I'm not just saying that. It is recoverable, of course. You still have to. You're in the football club 10 or 12 days. And even though you probably have watched the team play and you still have to learn about the players. And I have to learn about the players myself. I got great help from a coaching staff, and I felt, as I said earlier, young men involved in the game who have been involved heavily in the game. Sean Maloney's been a manager at his own stages. And so I leaned on certain things. But in many aspects, it was a throwback to my earlier days there, going into the football club, allowing coaches like Steve Walford to go and coach. And I will oversee things and then put my stamp, for want of a better word, on the team.
So what are you saying to the many Celtic fans who clearly, from what I'm seeing this morning, have major doubt in their mind about Wilfred Nancy? A, did he impress you? And B, were you impressed when you read his CV?
Yeah, it doesn't. I've always said this here. You will never know whether a manager is any good or not. You can have the greatest CV in the world, as has been proved over the last 20 odd years, as a footballer or whatever the case may be, and maybe not make the grade as a manager. But it doesn't. You can. And things are eventually a bit of a progression. You know, I suppose I never looked at it like this, believe it or not, because when I went to Wycombe Wanderers, first of all, I wasn't starting to think about, wonder could I manage Manchester United or Real Madrid? You know, when we lost to Bromsgrove, I didn't think that. But at the end of it all, what I'm saying is this here, that it is there might be a natural progression on it, and you've got to work at it. Every single football club, you should not be thinking of a football club as a stepping stone. You should be thinking about trying to win for that football club, and then things might happen because of winning.
So what's your message to all the Celtic fans, and I mean many, many who are messaging in this morning, who are saying it's a polite no thanks to Wilfred Nancy and Martin, we want you back?
No, you cannot make a judgment on anybody over 3 games, and I don't care about the matches were difficult. Roma was going to be a difficult game, whether you're playing at home or not. Do you know, Hearts was the top of the table clash, and a cup final, a cup final is a cup final. You have got to give a manager some time. And what would you?
You got him out the corner of your eye there, didn't you?
Yes, I did. I'll hand it over to the maestro. What would you have? What as a now? Well, you have employed
really,
a
honestly,
manager for 3 games.
Well, I would have kept you in situ to the end of the season.
All right, but what would you have done if you had employed a manager?
I wouldn't have employed. I don't think I'd
games?
have employed this manager. And ultimately, I would have expected him to have faltering hearts that weren't in great form. They'd drawn the last couple of games, so they weren't in momentum. A Roma game, which I knew would have been difficult, and a cup final that I have to win. I'd be disappointed. Is what I'd be.
And you wouldn't have employed him, Simon?
Well, I've said that, haven't I? I've said that from the outset. I don't think, with all due respect to his credentials, and there's a stepping stone. Celtic's not a stepping stone. Celtic is one of 2 clubs in Scotland that has to win. End of discussion, has to win. And when he came in, it wasn't broken. Brendan's tantrums were causing off-the-field challenges. And so with Brendan gone, put a sensible voice in there that holds order and does sensible things, you win football matches in Scotland and any league.
And if you were Dermot Desmond, you would have kept the man to your left on until the end of the season.
But there's no reason not to.
After 4 games without win, Chelsea got back on track with a 2-0 win at home to Everton. But then post-match, and this is where I'm going with this, after being asked about the performance of Malo Gusto, Maresca decided to impart his own message.
Since I joined the club, the last 48 hours has been the worst 48 hours since I joined the club, because many people didn't support us.
What do you mean in terms of the not people supporting you in the last 48 hours?
Worst 48 hours since I joined the club, because people didn't support me and the team.
People in terms?
In general.
Peter? Do you mean fans or?
I love the fans, and we are very happy with the fans.
Okay, so the worst 48 hours since I joined the club because people didn't support me and the team. Who's he driving at there, Samuel? What's he driving at?
Well, I don't suppose he's driving it at the players, and I don't suspect he's driving it at the fans, because he's told you that he's not. So he's either talking about the media, which he isn't, or he's talking about the people that he's working for. Now, there is an element of people that run football clubs are commercially different people than people that manage them. So there's an emotional immaturity sometimes about football managers. So you bake it into your thinking that they'll go into press conferences and they'll say things that are emotionally charged. It's an emotional game. You expect everybody else to be charged with emotions. You can't exclude managers from it. It's an unwise move, because if to some extent he's digging at certain people that may well have been telling him to do certain things, it may well be diverging from the agenda they started with, or converging. There's a school of thought which I'm led to understand or believe that there are differing agendas about what this team should be capable of doing, and who they should be capable of playing, and what the outcomes from the football club is in terms of players being developed to be perhaps resold or advanced rather than necessarily team winning trophies. If he's been caught in a cleft position of differing agendas, which is, ultimately you've got to win trophies. I think he's got a fair point in some of the points that he makes about if you want to win things, you've got to give me experienced players alongside young players. If he's got these views, the views that he's aired there, he's not well served in putting them in the public domain. I don't think there's a bigger job for Enzo Maresca than Chelsea. I think he's in one of the biggest clubs in world football with one of the biggest budgets behind him. I think he was quite fortunate to have got it. He's doing a decent job, and there's not a great deal of expectation upon Chelsea besides the historic expectation that's been built up over the Abramovich era, which is you win, and if managers get fired left, right, centre, and you win all the time. But in the last 3 years, the media spent all its time dumping all over the ridiculousness of Todd Bowley and Eghbali's spend pattern, and the expectation of Chelsea to win the league isn't really there. So there's not that kind of expectation. But it's a fool's errand to me. And it will be. I remember speaking to Daniel about Conte.
Daniel Levy
about Conte and him having an outburst after the Burnley game. And the sentiment was, well, he's a temperamental Italian. This is what happens. These things happen. Because it's baked into an owner's thinking that these guys will say certain things. If it gets too much, they'll get a tap on the shoulder and get told, come on, pack it in. That's a bit silly. But they'll accept certain things. But it doesn't end well if you're directing that. The people that he's directing that at will know specifically and explicitly who they are. If it's a sporting director, maybe they'll blow steam off. If it's an owner that's been saying certain things to him, rotate the squad, or whatever it is that's being said, or ultimately we expect this from you, or that from you, or the other from you, then that won't end well. You cannot rebuke and admonish your owners and people that you work for in the public domain. You can go to them in person and you can have an up and down with somebody. You can go to your owner or your chief executive or your sporting director and you can have a blunt exchange of views between a manager and an owner or a CEO or a sporting director. You cannot take that in the public domain because there's going to be one outcome.
But let's say, Martin, let's just say, for talking sake, this is an owner, one of the owners who's maybe telling Maresca what he wants to see on the field of play, suggesting what Enzo should maybe provide him with seeing on the field of play. You know where I'm going with this. Are you an emboldened manager or a stupid one engaging the media to make a point?
I agree with Simon, 98% of what he says, because you cannot take this in. For instance, just go back a few weeks ago before I got the job at Celtic. So Brendan talking about the players being what card did he use? He used the analogy about
the Ferrari or the
Ferrari and things like this here.
Honda Civic.
Yeah, the Honda Civic, and that's absolutely right. And you know that first of all that's going to really anger the board for a start, and it's not going to help you with players either. Now Maresca didn't mention this about the players, but he very obviously, as Simon points out, he has mentioned, and we realise this is the board in total or a member or two of the board. Now, right, if the board are telling him who to play, that's a different issue. But I don't think he should be publicly. He should be admonishing someone for saying, you employed me as the manager. This is my job. So I don't want to lose my job on players that you're asking me to pick at the end of it all. I'll go with that. And there have been owners who have told managers who to play. That's the point.
And Simon, if that was the case, that would be unacceptable to Maresca, to be fair to him, wouldn't it?
Okay, let's start the conversation where the conversation started 18 months ago. If the ownership model brings him in and says, this is how we operate, he takes a job on that basis, or he doesn't take it on that basis. If he's got a clear understanding, if there's a complete and utter divergence from what was said when the job was given to him, if there is indeed a conversation between board members about wanting to see players do certain things or rotation, if that was verbalised and vocalised to the manager at the beginning of his tenure, then nothing's changed really, has it? So what's the manager complaining about? He took a job under those conditions. If he didn't want the job under those conditions, he didn't have to take it. Now, if it's because he's become emboldened because he's won a World Club Championship, I've got no problem.
Yeah.
Most owners have no problem with a manager flexing. A good manager should flex. He should flex his muscles when he gets an opportunity to do it. A sensible manager, a wise manager, doesn't do it in the public domain. The one thing I'll give Brendan Rodgers currency for is he resigned. He resigned. He walked away from the situation with, not for me. Not what I think, not what I want, whether it was more Machiavellian than that. If you don't like something, football managers won't resign. They'll wait for you to fire them so you have to pay them, or they'll create an outcome where you have to deal with the situation. Now, if he's doing that, I don't understand what his objective is. I don't personally think Maresca gets a bigger job in world football. I think he's got a wonderful job at a football club that's as big as most football clubs in Europe, going through a period of adjusting to a new ownership.
Yeah.
But where does Maresca go? He was
what
lucky
you're
to get it
saying
in the
Simon,
first place.
Is this you saying one of your favourite phrases, Enzo, pack it in?
Well, yeah. In real terms, what are you going to achieve? He has a point. If he's been told something and something else is different, then by all means go knocking on someone's door and start throwing some glasses around if you feel that's a necessity, and have a conversation, because people are men that can stand up to resilient conversations, especially commercial animals that accept it and actually will expect their managers to have some balls about them. But you don't drag it in the public domain. That's a whole different set of rules.
We are watching with interest to see how Sunderland's season is going, and it's going spectacularly well. It was the Weirtime derby at the weekend. It was at 1 goal. Voltamata scored it in the wrong end, and that gave the win to Sunderland. The result moves Sunderland up to 7th, 4 points clear of their rivals Newcastle, who sit 12th. And this man, who has made us all sit up and watch what he's doing, Regis Lebris, was thrilled.
We showed our progress, and I think it's not only me, it's not only one player, it's about a collective project, teamwork, and I think it's one of the main strengths of this club. We are working together, the players are showing on the pitch that these connections are probably the main strength of the squad. Is it in possession or out of possession? And I think it's already the case. It's also the case for the club and for the different staffs.
Martin, you've been there. You know what it's like to be in charge of that football club. Lebris can do no wrong at the moment, can he?
No, it's been splendid for him. Absolutely splendid. And I felt at the end of last season when they got promoted, I thought the side that got promoted would not be strong enough to survive in the Premier League. So they definitely needed new players coming in. But then you get a host of players come in, but you still have to manage them. You have to manage them. You've got to get them right. Luckily, you got a bit of a pre-season with that there, and that's half decent news. But overall, I don't think anybody expected the improvement in the club. And so the manager's been fantastic.
And you know what it's like to manage in a derby. Of course, I think immediately of you at Celtic Rangers. The Weirtime derby, what's it like?
Well, I've done 2 of those games. We went to in my short period of time at Sunderland. We went to St James's. We played really, really well, and we drew. I think they got a penalty kick at about 6 or 7 minutes to go, but we should have won that game. A couple of back into the next season, early on in the season, and we drew again. But Newcastle were by far the better side that time, so it was a reverse in terms of form as much as anything else. But they are big news. They are great fixtures, and me being a Sunderland fan for years and years and years, that was a delightful result yesterday.
Did you have a little tete-a-tete with Alan Pardew?
I'm afraid I did, yes. That I'll add Alan to another list of managers that I've had a tete-a-tete with. But this time, and I'm going to say this here, and Alan sometimes comes on programmes here, it was totally and utterly his fault. He was just really, really irritating me.
Was he?
Oh, God.
What did he do?
Big time. What did he do? Well, it doesn't take much to irritate me, so I suppose he probably wasn't doing anything, but I'm blaming him completely on this one. Yeah, he was just jumping around and he was irritating me, I must admit.
I took it in yesterday, Sam. I watched the thing. It was a game that lacked quality, but when it comes to desire and will, was there really only one team that seemed likely that they really wanted to win it?
I'm not sure that's right. I mean, I think ultimately Sunderland are in such a good vein of thinking right now that every box that you can imagine for a Sunderland fan is being ticked. They go up, they're not whimpering in the Premier League, they're there.
No.
They're staying in the Premier League next season, so the first box has been ticked. Everyone knows they're not going to get relegated.
But this was a tepid Newcastle.
Next box, they play Newcastle at home, and they beat Newcastle at home. So for Sunderland fans, these moments are great and wonderful moments, and well-deserved, because the owner who's a younger owner that I felt at times wouldn't have the experience to make certain decisions. You got to look at the decisions and the voices that he's listening to that's brought this manager through the door. You look at it now and say, how do you look at Sunderland in comparison with Newcastle? Newcastle are a Champions League side that have got £300 or £400 million of a turnover. Sunderland are doing what lots of promoted clubs have done previously, which is having a wonderful first season. We've seen it happen with Sheffield United in previous times. We've seen it happen with Swansea all those years ago. Wonderful time. Enjoy it. It's a great set of achievements. You're staying in the Premier League next season. The difficulty is when you draw comparisons, because it's a natural thing to do, because that's what we do, is draw a comparison between the two clubs. Newcastle are by far and away advanced beyond Sunderland. They're a Champions League side. They've got 150 to 200 million pounds of a turnover, greater than Sunderland. So that means that Newcastle's project is several years ahead of Sunderland. Individual games, fantastic. Give Sunderland all the plaudits for the individual games. Give Sunderland all the plaudits for the way they've approached this season, because I've got nothing but respect and admiration for them.
But Simon, is there a danger that one club, Newcastle's hit their ceiling? How in Newcastle, they will go no further, while the other has plenty more room to climb?
Well, yeah, but again, it's the same argument that you're advancing. How does Sunderland bridge the gap between Newcastle in perpetuity, consistently, rather than an individual game and an individual season? And how do Newcastle get into the top six repeatedly? How do Newcastle win the league, given the ownership model they've got? Well, the answer is probably they can't, because they've got £350 million of a turnover, and Manchester City have got 700, and so have Arsenal, and so have Liverpool, and so have other teams that are in the top six that have been established because of the nature of the PSR rules. So how does Sunderland compete with Newcastle in the longer term?
Yeah.
Well, they can't.
Yeah. I wonder if Newcastle seemed to forget it was a derby. Eddie wasn't happy.
Criticism comes with every defeat, but of course with this one I think it will be louder and stronger, just because of the game and the importance of the game, and we fully acknowledge that, and that's why it hurts so much. So disappointed for our supporters, and sorry for the performance, really, in the sense of the lack of goalmouth action, the lack of clinical attacking, which we've tried to pride ourselves on over recent seasons. It wasn't there today, and for that we're sorry. Certainly wasn't a lack of effort from the lads, but today wasn't our day.
But Martin, come the end of the season, do you think that Sunderland will be the story of the North East?
Well, it is the story of the North East, and regardless of what happens, as Simon said, that they've already accumulated enough points. Well, they haven't, but you know that they're going to stay up. And that is an achievement in itself, first time off. So this is a big result for them yesterday. And I think regardless of what happens, that they have to fall off a cliff now for them not to be the story.
A lot has changed in the time since you were there, hasn't it? I mean, the way Sunderland have approached this is to be admired. And I wonder where Newcastle are going when you hear Anthony Gordon on Instagram totally underperformed today in a game that would have meant so much to everyone. We can only apologise, reset and try to make it right on Wednesday. That seems almost too easy for top players to do and say now. Well,
Eddie Howe just made the point. They know the importance of the game. This was a big match. Obviously a big game for Sunderland, because I went to... I was up north about 2 months ago in not too far from Durham, really, and Sunderland fans were looking forward to this game like you wouldn't believe. They had it already when the fixture list came out. This was the game that they were looking at, so it really did mean an awful lot to Sunderland. I'm not saying it didn't to Newcastle supporters, but sometimes when you're involved, you've got Champions League matches, you're playing in games like this here, then you sometimes do forget how important this game is to the fans. You do, as a player, you might think, just even if it's only a temporary thought in your head, you don't, and it's the realisation after you've got beaten in the game and in the manner in which you got beaten, you realise, wait a minute, this is it.
When you were in charge of Sunderland, when you looked at that fixture, you thought, well, there's one I can't lose.
Oh, very much so. Absolutely, this is it. And that's why. Well, it's not why anything, but at the end it's exactly what you said.
And that's why it's not why anyway. Just a reminder on what Maresca said over the weekend following Chelsea's 2-0 win over Everton. He was asked about the performance of Malo Gusto, and then he kind of went off and won.
Since I joined the club, the last 48 hours has been the worst 48 hours since I joined the club, because many people didn't support us.
What do you mean in terms of the not people supporting you in the last 48 hours?
Worst 48 hours since I joined the club, because people didn't support me and the team.
People in terms?
In general.
Peter?
Do you mean fans or?
I love the fans, and we are very happy with the fans.
So we all get the gist of it then. Since I joined the club, the last 48 hours have been the worst because many people didn't support us. So, in the last half hour, Maresca almost inevitably was asked, remember what you said at the weekend? What do you mean by that? Now we have the audio in the last few moments from Enzo Maresca with the media at Chelsea's media conference, and you can hear from himself. He was asked, all right, at the weekend, what did you mean?
I already spoke about that, and I think I was quite clear. No more than that.
But with all due respect, I don't think you were clear, because you said something that is open to a lot of interpretation. So obviously when you make those comments, you have to accept the fact that people are going to talk about them.
I respect your opinion, and I respect people's opinion, but again, I don't have nothing to add, and my focus is just on tomorrow game, that we can achieve the first semi-final in 18 months since I joined the club.
So are you happy about the fact that people are saying you have a bad relationship with the sporting directors, you have a bad relationship with one of the owners, you don't like feedback from them? Because you said something extraordinary. You said this was the worst 48 hours of your time at the club, and then you didn't explain that. You don't think Chelsea supporters deserve an explanation? I
said after the game that I love Chelsea support. They deserve the best. And again, I don't have nothing to add.
Okay, are you happy being the Chelsea head coach, and are you committed to Chelsea 100%?
Absolutely, yes.
I mean, I don't know. Simon to my left is laughing in here. It's almost like you, Enzo, you will fold under questioning. We will continue to question you. What did he mean? And why is he not biting when he's asked again this morning? Phil is a Chelsea fan. Phil, what do you think it was about?
Well, I think there's 2 points here. Point number one, he was unwise to say what he said in the first place. But if he's since been told, shut up or else, which is probably likely, therefore he cannot say anything further. And two, according to most media, and that includes talkSPORT, I hear nothing. I'm not privy to what goes on at Chelsea's board. I hear nothing. The fact that we've got two owners who are pulling in opposite directions. Maybe, just maybe, that's perhaps what he's talking about.
What do you think, Simon? Well, Phil's entitled to his opinion. What do you think?
I think he's been smacked. I think he did more mental gymnastics than Martin did in the first hour to avoid answering a question about Celtic as he did about asking a question about what he meant. He wasn't clear at all, and I thought the journalist, as much as I would want to strangle the journalist if I was him, he opened this can, and now he's been told to put a lid on it. I don't think it's about Egbali and Todd Bowley going in different directions. One's a 62% shareholder, will end up owning the club. The other one is the noise that people attach with Chelsea, which is Bowley. This is about something this is about other things. To my view, this is about the construct of the team, how they get played, what the overriding vision of the team is. And I suspect the manager has had a bold moment and then realised the reality of the real world, a bit like Ferguson did when he took on Magnia and McManus over the Rock of Gibraltar. Get dragged into the real world and get told by people that actually have more money and power than you do, rather than the media world, which is shut up and do as you're told. And that's what he's probably been told.
So how do you think it Philip, before you leave us, how do you think this plays out then?
I think there's a good possibility he will go, but I also think Simon is speaking an opinion, not a fact. So whilst I respect what Simon says, that doesn't make it so.
Fair enough. Fair enough. You're entitled to that. What do you think? How do you think it plays out, Simon? I mean, if you're Egbali or Bowley, are you still the Enzo? You can't say things like that. Don't start something you can't finish.
I think so, yeah. But it depends what you think the job that he's doing is. I mean, if you want to take umbrage, and I don't. Let's assume I might have a little bit more than just an opinion, right? Let's assume I might have a little bit of knowledge about this conversation. I don't think they're children about the manager. They'll understand there's certain things that managers do and don't say. If he continues to produce a team that's effective for Chelsea's overall outcomes, which is winning football team that will increase the capital value of a private equity investment, they'll keep him in situ. If he doesn't, they'll get rid of him. If someone like Oliver Glasner becomes available and they think he can do a better job than Maresca, out the door he'll go.
Yeah.
So it won't be just based upon the unwiseness and the immaturity of a manager that's gotten carried away with himself and said something that he can't finish. Because he's like a neutered dog in there. I think I've been clear. I mean, he couldn't have been any less clearer. And then if someone gives him a lifeline by saying, you said it wasn't the fans. Oh, I love the fans. Well, this is the same fans that you were complaining about last year that were booing your goalkeeper when it took too long to clear the ball. You had something to say about them then. Now you love them. It was a silly conversation for him to have. And he's been dragged into a space now that ultimately makes him look relatively foolish because he can't finish the sentence.
Yeah.
So what was the point of starting it?
So we don't really know what he meant. And we don't really know when or if he'll return to what he was talking about. But we'll keep across it. We know what Thomas Frank meant after Tottenham went to Nottingham Forest yesterday and lost by 3-0. Far from happy. This was Thomas.
I think I do everything to control my emotions, which is a hurricane inside me. Because, of course, it's deeply frustrating that we are not doing better today after 3 good performances. I think it's extremely important to be calm and measured and, of course, have very, very direct and clear messages at the right time so they're not in doubt of what I think. And very honest about where we are. That's why I was also very honest today. It was a very bad performance. No two ways about that. But also know that to change this will take some time because you can't. No one want to hear about that. It's just reality. I think the one who have followed the club and the team, I think it's fair to say there's been a few not too consistent performances, and that's the thing we are working very hard on.
Man, that's the thing. I mean, after 3 games unbeaten, Tottenham produced a lacklustre performance, just 1 shot on target at Forest. I mean, doing reasonably well in Europe, and then hitting domestic inconsistency. There's a touch of deja vu about this, isn't there?
Well, again, I'm getting back to the point. I suppose I'm in the managers' union here because I felt that at the beginning of the season that Thomas, one, deserved this opportunity for the job that he had done at Brentford, and here it was to manage a big club like Tottenham Hotspur, and so I still think that he's got the ability to pull these league results around. And maybe sometimes you might think to yourself, well, should you put everything onto the manager? Some players have to take a wee bit of responsibility. I know maybe that's just me playing the managerial role, but players do have to accept responsibility on the field of play. They've given away a really soft goal to begin with. That was the opening of the game. This playing out at the back, there's teams get caught every single week, and I just don't mean teams and outside of big league football. I'm talking about big teams getting caught in possession of the ball, where who you concede a goal, and that becomes a big moment in the game. You're 0-0. You're doing fine. You've quelled the opening charge of the opposition. And then suddenly you've just given a goal away and the whole momentum changes. You keep doing that there, then you find yourself in trouble.
But what is your take that these days, Martin, players seem to take to social media fairly quickly to say, oh, sorry about that. A message to the fans. I mean, this one comes a couple of weeks after criticising Spurs fans. This is Pedro Porro I'm talking about, telling the true fans that he indeed loved them, which was lovely to hear. Porro on this occasion post-match after the 3-0 defeat yesterday. Not for the first time, Spurs players are apologising for a poor performance. And yesterday, Pedro Porro gave another sorry statement. He says the away fans don't deserve this. Today was a bad game from us. Every game is difficult in the Premier League. We can play on Tuesday and win in the Champions League, but in the Premier League it's different. Maybe more intensity. I don't know. But I feel especially sorry for the fans. The fans don't deserve this today. Yes, we know that, Pedro.
Well, that's a total ingratiation of himself to the fans. That's what that is. That is, I'll tell you something now. I can imagine these things existing sometimes when Brian Clough and I have been hopeless in a game, and he has just told me I've been hopeless in a match, and then me going outside and going onto social media and saying that the fans deserve better than that. No, they deserve better from your performances, mate. And you get a grip of yourself. Yeah. Get a grip of yourself. I hope he's including himself in that group of players who didn't play so well. Players, they'll do your brain in.
I mean, with the squad at their disposal, Simon, how much was last season's 17th place finish an accident?
How do you mean an accident? They sacrificed the league in pursuit of the Europa League.
Well, how much better are they now?
Well, they're better because they're better. Their position in the league is better.
So is this a good squad?
No, I don't think so. No, I've said that for some time. I think that it's not a good squad. I don't mean ultimately you miss the Madisons of the world, you miss the Kulicheskis that are creative influence on the team, you miss the Solankis that give you a spearhead and a certain focal point. I mean, criticising the players, we have got the society that we've created. This is what we want. Are we objecting to the fact that they say it in a press conference or say it in a post-match interview to some gurning reporter from the BBC or Sky News or doing it on social media? What is the problem? We want people to turn around and whether they do it through Instagram or they do it. If they turn around and say nothing, then media will criticise them for saying nothing. If they turn around and not acknowledge the fans, I mean, what is all this about, going over and applauding fans? What is this all about, winning individual games and taking a team photograph? What is this all about walking onto a pitch and shaking the opposition's hands before a game? What is all that about? It's a modern construct of how football should be played. And it's a part of the culture we've created, so we can't criticise it. We've told players that they are highly worthwhile individuals that are very important what they say. So when they say what they say, we then criticise them for it. I mean, what he said the other day about the Spurs fans, I thought was wrong, because he turned around and said, "I'm not having it. The one thing I won't have." Well, who are you to say the one thing you won't have? The reasons why you got booed is because you were crap. And when you get praised, I'm not having that. You don't hear anybody say, "I'm not having that praise. I refuse to accept it." You don't hear that, do you? So that's my issue with the issue. But we've created a culture and a society where people are expected to apologise, and they don't apologise, then they're castigated for it. People are expected to account for their performances and acknowledge everyone from your aunt to your uncle and every single member of the fan base. And if they don't, they're vilified.
Well, come off social media then.
But social media, I agree, but then the football clubs want it, because we've had Man United on this show turning around and saying that their social media department curates content based upon what the fans want to hear. We've had players come out like Harry Maguire that have been imparted messages because social media trends have been told by the club to say the players say that. So you can't have it both ways. You can't monetize your football club through the digital footprint you've got and then complain about what it says.
So you're saying to me, and this is new to me, so you are saying that the clubs actively want players to go on social media?
Of course they do. Their digital footprint, they will value football clubs based upon how many digital followers they've got. They will look at it and say, look at Man United, turn around and say, we've got the most digital followers in the world, because they know that it represents huge economic returns.
Yeah.
What does huge economic returns mean? Okay. More transfer fees and bigger wages and more success in the end.
Anyway, how the Tottenham fans reacted to Pedro Porro's comments is up to them. I feel especially sorry for the fans. The fans don't deserve this today.
Give them the money back then.
You're right, Pedro. They didn't.